Hello, I am Andrea, an official SAT tutor at MMT Prep, and in this video I will be explaining the answers for the third writing passage of the College Board's Official Practice Test number 1. Because it's the writing section, I'm not going to read everything, just the underlined portions, and we will go through question by question, talking about what the answers are and why those would be the correct answers. So let's start with 23. When I look through these answer options, I can see that it's just wording, maybe a verb. And for this kind of question, I'm going to make an educated guess that it would be the shortest. So in this case, D. I'm going to try that in my sentence before deciding that that is the right answer and make sure the sentence sounds right and works grammatically. The novelty of this comfortable work-from-home life, however, wore off quickly. Sounds fine to me, so the answer will indeed be D. Shorter is better. You don't want any redundancy. Now let's look at 24. These again are wording. I would guess again at the shortest, but I'm not as sure which one I'll choose. I'm going to look at the sentence first. Having become frustrated trying to solve difficult problems, and then I have an underlined section. So a key thing here is that it begins with an ing. This is a modifier, right? So this whole phrase doesn't actually have a subject. We don't know who's frustrated. So the key thing is going to make sure that we know who we're talking about for the beginning section, and that's going to be our subject that comes right after the comma. So to figure out who that would be, I'm going to read back a sentence, see who indeed they're talking about. Within a month, I found myself feeling isolated despite having frequent email and instant messaging contact with my colleagues. And then having become frustrated trying to solve difficult problems. And I'm going to assume that it's going to continue the same subject, the same person they're talking about, the I, which would be D again. I'm just going to make sure that fits with the full sentence. Checking your answers in this way usually does not take a lot of time. It's one of the best ways to make sure you don't make silly mistakes. And it's also something you can do if you go through super quickly. When you're done at the end, you can go back and read through your answers. So let's do that quickly with 24. Having become frustrated trying to solve difficult problems, I missed having colleagues nearby to consult. So indeed, it does match. The key thing there is to have the subject I right after the comma phrase. Now let's look at 25. I can see from my options for 25, these are all super short words. Fancy word for them is prepositions. All you need to know is that they're super short, don't have a ton of meaning, and the way you're going to solve this problem is using your ear. So we're going to kind of listen and when we read the next and the rest of the sentence and think about what word we want there. It was during this time that I read an article into co-working spaces. Okay, I read an article is going to need a certain word here, and it's actually going to be about. I read an article about co-working spaces. Naturally, you would think that, you would hear that. We do this all the time, so really use your ear for this kind of a question. So let's keep going forward. So 26. I can see from my possible answer choices, this is testing colons or punctuation around, there could be a colon, and such as. So I know for my colon rules, such as and a colon aren't friends. I can't have both of them. I'm going to instantly eliminate B and C, and then it's going to be between A and D. And the difference between these two, it's always good to know what the difference is very concretely so you know what you're eliminating, is that comma on the end of D, whereas A has no comma. So do I want a comma there? Definitely not. It sounds really funny to try and put a pause there. There's no reason I would do that. So I'm going to choose A for 26. 27, this is kind of a transition one. So the best way to do transitions is to read the sentence before, the sentence after, and just pretend the underlined section does not exist for now. So let's look at the sentence before. It's the one we just read, or we're looking at for 26. The spaces are usually stocked with standard office equipment such as photocopiers, printers, and fax machines. Okay, so it's stuff in office. Then I'm going to skip the underlined section 27 and read the sentence afterward. The spaces often include small meeting areas and larger rooms for hosting presentations. Right? This is more stuff. So I want something that's in agreement. It's not a reason. It can't be a parallel situation because it's a continuation. So it's not like, there's this example and this other example. So likewise also would not work. In these locations, however, that would not work. So I can't have A. So it's going to be B in addition to equipment, right? It's adding, really easy adding one. And the equipment matches the sentence before. So 28, this kind of a problem is slower. The moment I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a slow one. When you're actually doing the test, you can choose to skip all of these and save them for the end, or you can do them as you go through, whichever one's easier for you. Often saving them for the end allows your mind to kind of change gears because the grammar ones go so quickly and these take a little more time. They're not too slow, but it just lets your mind switch from going super, super fast, all the grammar, and then you can come back through and do the more logical ones. So we're just going to go through in order for this video, and we're going to look at 28. I'm deciding if the writer wants to delete the underlined sentence. So to make this decision, I'm going to need to read the sentence. I'm also probably going to need to read at least one sentence before. That's the one I was just looking at, all the stuff in the offices. Often another place that's helpful is the topic sentence, but I'm not sure yet if I'll need it. I'm just going to look at the last sentence first. The cost of launching a new co-working business in the United States is estimated to be approximately $58,000. So, the moment I read that, having read the last two sentences for my transition problem, I'm like, this is a little bit off topic. So I'm going to make a guess that it's going to be deleted. So that will be between C and D. C, deleted because it blurs the paragraph's main focus with a loosely related detail. That's promising. Right? D, deleted because it repeats information that has been provided in an earlier paragraph. That's not the reason I would choose to delete it. I would actually choose to delete it just because it's kind of off topic. So I'm going to choose C. It blurs the paragraph's main focus. And that's from just reading the last two sentences. So 29. At this point, the writer wants to add specific information that supports the main topic of the paragraph. Which choice most effectively completes the sentence with relevant and accurate information based on the graph above? Okay, so we have this graph. Key thing for this kind of question is to make sure we know what we're looking at. And so we have positive impact is the dark one, negative impact is the lighter one, and then we have all these different categories. And so I'm going to need to read my sentence to know what I'm actually looking for. The article refers to a 2012 survey, so this graph must be the 2012 survey, in which blah, 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 blah. It's about co-working spaces, right? It's the perceived effect of co-working. And I need to just find something that's accurate to the graph. The text actually doesn't really add anything informationally. Sometimes it'll say like the highest point, the lowest point. It's really just which one matches the graph. So 64% of respondents noted that co-working spaces prevented them from completing tasks in a given time. So that's the opposite reaction, right? So this is positive. So that is a wrong answer for A. That's actually those who thought that it helped them. B, 71% of respondents indicated that using a co-working space increased their creativity. That seems to be right. This is the good stuff, creativity. I'm just going to make sure that C and D are wrong before I choose B. C, respondents credited co-working spaces with giving them 74% of their ideas relating to business. No, it's that 74% of respondents said it helped. So that's a misreading of the graph. Respondents revealed their ability to focus on their work improved by 12% in a co-working space. And that's actually the bad one. So that, again, is an opposite relationship. I'm going to choose B. It matches creativity. 71% said it helped. So now 30. I can instantly see this is going to be between who and whom, and use and uses. Okay. The key test for whom and who is to change it for he or him. So if you'd want to use he in the sentence, you're going to use who. If you want to use him in the sentence, you're going to use whom. You sometimes have to move it around a little bit, but we know he and him way better. Who and whom are weird. We don't really use them anymore, so just switch them out. The article goes on to suggest that the most valuable resources provided by co-working spaces are actually the people whom use them. So it can be he or him, or it can be they or them. They use them or them use them. Definitely, I'm going to choose a they or a he, which means that I'm going to want a who. I'm going to eliminate A and B with the whom. And then it's going to be who use them or who uses them. So this is going to depend on who my subject is, who I'm talking about. And so I'm talking about the people who use them. And so for they, the people, I'm definitely going to want just use, which is going to be D. So I'm matching who as they instead of them and whom, and then use for the people, a plural. 31, this is a placement one. Again, if you're saving the harder ones, the slower ones for last, this is one you'd want to save for later. We're just going to do it now. I'm going to read the sentence I'm trying to place first, and then I'm going to look back through my paragraph. As I'm reading, I'm going to particularly be looking for words in the sentence such as this, that, other pronouns, nouns that need clarification, to see where it's going to match with the rest of the paragraph. So I'm going to read that sentence now. After filling out a simple registration form and taking a quick tour of the facility, I took a seat at a table and got right to work on my laptop. Okay, so after filling out a simple registration form, this is going to be a time-based one. I'm not sure where it's going to go in the paragraph. I'm now going to be looking for the chronology of the paragraph where it would make the most sense to put this sentence. So just sentence by sentence. Thus, even though I already had all the equipment I needed in my office, I decided to try using a co-working space in my city. So, decided to try is the first one. Sentence 2, because I was specifically interested in co-working's reported benefits related to creativity, I chose a facility that offered a bright, open work area that I wouldn't be isolated. So, I chose a facility, so he decided, he chose the facility. I'm looking for the chronology because I had this keyword after. I'm going to look at sentence 3. Throughout the morning, more people appeared. Okay, so I feel like I missed something here. And also chronologically, if I remember my own sentence that I'm trying to place, I have a registration form, right? And so the registration form would come before being in this space. So I'm going to say it's going to be between sentence 2 and 3. That's going to correspond to answer choice C after sentence 2. Before I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all done, I'm just going to quickly check between those 3 sentences. I'm not even going to read all of 2. I'm only going to read from after the comma because I know that's the main independent part of that sentence. Always one side of a comma is not complete, one side is complete. And so there are 2 commas actually in this sentence. The one is working for a list of adjectives, this one here, so I'm going to need that, but I'm going to read from here. I chose a facility that offered a bright, open work area where I wouldn't be isolated. After filling out a simple registration form and taking a quick tour of the facility, I took a seat at a table and got right to work on my laptop. Throughout the morning, more people appeared. Totally natural flow. So, done with 31. I'm now going to look at 32. You can see right away, this is a punctuation question. What kind of punctuation do I want after colleagues? Okay, this is going to depend on the rest of my sentence. So I'm going to read the full sentence, and I'm going to be looking if I have a subject and a verb beforehand, if it's its own independent thing. If I have a subject and a verb afterwards, if it would also be its own independent thing. So, over time, I've gotten to know several of my co-working colleagues. Indeed, I have I as a subject and have gotten as a verb, complete sentence. Now I'm going to check after my punctuation. Another website developer, a graphic designer, a freelance writer, and several mobile app coders. So afterwards, I have all these people, right? A website developer, a graphic designer, a freelance writer, and several app coders. But do I have an action? Are they doing anything? No, it's just a list. So my key list punctuation is going to be this colon. And the way to check for colon is to make sure I have a sentence beforehand. I already did that. I know I've got a sentence, and so I'm going to be good to go. The list is explaining who the colleagues are from the first part of the sentence. So I'm going to choose A with the colon. 33, even those of us who work in disparate fields are able to share advice and help each other brainstorm. Okay, we are choosing the best word in context. It is largely just based on ear and often also shorter, not too fancy, not too casual, right? So looking at the answers for 33, I'd eliminate D because opine is a ridiculously fancy word for this not super formal essay. Proclaim our opinions is a little more intense than I would normally say. Give some wisdom sounds a little bit casual. The some isn't very precise. Whereas share advice is pretty natural. I'm going to choose A. It sounds the most natural within the context of the sentence. This kind of vocab question, it's different than the reading vocabulary where you're looking for context. It's just which one sounds the most natural and the right level of language, not too fancy, not too informal. So the answer for 33 will be A. It's the right level of language, and that means I've actually completed this passage and I'm ready to move on to the next passage in the grammar section. Thank you for watching our video. The next one will have passage 4.